Starting it up. Okay, guys, we are live once again with another awesome video. Family and friends, be sure to share this video to help others. On the behalf of Solid Foundation Israelite Academy, I am your host, Shabar Judah Israel, and to my right hand side, Yeremia Bond Israel. We are representing Solid Foundation Israelite Academy on today, and also bringing you an awesome lesson. And the topic of discussion is, what is exactly a proverb and a byword? Now, for those of you guys that are not familiar with proverbs and bywords, we're going to give you clarity on truly what is a proverb and a byword. Now, I'm assuming that a lot of you may know this already, but we have some brothers and sisters that may not be familiar to this knowledge. So let's get into it. Now, a proverb and a byword, in order for us to get this over and understanding, we're going to need a Bible. So guys, I'm not able to see who is tuning in because I'm at a very distance from the camera. So I can't see who's actually tuning in to the lesson. But I appreciate you guys, whosoever that spawns in, tunes in, be a part of this wonderful lesson. Now what you're going to need for this lesson, you're going to need a King James Bible, King James Holy Bible. You will need a composition book to take notes. And you will need a pen. And that's pretty much it. Alright, guys? So, without further ado, we're going to get into the lesson. Before we get into the lesson, let me run and get some more literature right quick. And I'm also going to check to see who has tuned in thus far. Alright? So we don't have any followers thus far. That's good. Let me go ahead and get So guys, I'm going to be using this display. Hold that up right there, Jeremiah. Let's see if it's good. Okay, we see Aaron Walker Jr. has tuned in. We appreciate your time that you have sacrificed, my brother. We're going to be talking about proverbs and bywords. That's the topic of discussion. And as you can see, this is an illustration of slavery that's recorded in the Bible. So if you guys don't know, you will know by the end of this lesson that you are the chosen people. Blacks, Hispanics, Latinos, and Native Americans, which are the Israelites. Hope you guys can see this illustration very well. Slavery is recorded in the Bible. And we will be discussing the proverbs and the bywords. So let's get into it. All right. So first and foremost, give me Deuteronomy 28 and give me verse 1. Deuteronomy 28 and verse 1. Give me that.
Deuteronomy chapter 28.
Read up loud for the sake of the count.
Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1.
All right, read on.
And this shall come to pass.
It shall come to pass. Because this was recorded like 4,000 years ago, I want to say. Maybe further than that. But Moses said this long time ago to the nation of Israel. That's why he said, it shall come to pass, because during that particular time, things were not manifested like they are now. So Deuteronomy 28 and 1, read on.
If thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
He's telling the Israelites. Moses telling the Israelites, which are the modern day blacks, Hispanics, Latinos, and Native Americans. He said that it shall come to pass that if the nation of Israel was obedient if they would be obedient, if they would listen. Basically, if you will hearken diligently into the voice of the Lord your God, read on up.
To observe and to do all his commandments.
To do all the commandments. All the commandments is the instructions, the laws, the statutes that the Most High gave the nation of Israel, the chosen people. If they will observe and do all his commandments, which he commanded us that day, go ahead.
Which I command thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth.
That the Most High, who you call Jehovah God, who we know as Yahweh, says that the Lord thy God, he's the God of the Israelites, that he would set the nation of Israel on high above all the other 17 nations. All right? Because we know it's 18 nations total. So that means if the nation of Israel was obedient to his commandments, and if we followed the Most High instructions, he would take that same great nation, the nation of Israel, and he would set them above all the other 17 nations on the earth. That's only if we will hearken diligently into his voice and keep his commandments. But give me verse 15 in Deuteronomy 28. What if we choose not to follow the instructions of the universal God? What if we choose not to, as a nation, as the nation of Israel, blacks, Hispanics, Latinos, and Native Americans, what if we choose not to hearken diligently into the commandments of God? Let's see what will happen to us. Deuteronomy 28:15. Read on.
Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 15.
Go ahead.
But it shall come to pass, if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God.
He's talking to the Israelites, telling the Israelites, if you don't keep God's commandments, go ahead.
To observe and to do all his commandments.
To scrutinize, to look carefully into the commandments, and to subscribe to the commandments. If you don't do this, go ahead.
And his statutes which I command thee this day,
Uh-huh.
that all these curses shall come upon thee.
That all these blessings shall come upon the Israelites.
That all these curses shall come upon thee.
That the nation of Israel was going to be overloaded with a ton of curses if they did not subscribe, listen, and keep God's commandments. The nation of Israel would be overloaded with curses. Curses would come upon the chosen people and would take them down. And the chosen people of today, in the here and now, are the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. So guess what? 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, this was talking to you people. This was talking to you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Because you was given laws, statutes, and commandments long time ago. And if you did not subscribe yourselves to the policies of the Heavenly Father, Deuteronomy 28:15 in the King James in your Holy Bible says that these curses will come upon us and they will overtake us down. Now watch this. We know that this happened because we know that the nation of Israel did not continue in righteousness with the Heavenly Father. We know they didn't. They broke the commandments. And we'll show you easily that the children of Israel broke the commandments. We will show you this. Now, let's show you. Go to Deuteronomy 29:25. Deuteronomy chapter 29, verse 25.
Deuteronomy chapter 29 and verse 25.
Uh-huh.
Then man shall say, because they have forsaken the covenant of...
The Israelites did what?
Because they have forsaken the covenant.
We forsook the covenant. Go ahead.
Of the Lord, God of their fathers, which he made with them when he brought them forth out of the land of Egypt.
Yeah, because the universal God, the Heavenly Father, he made a covenant with the children of Israel. Afterwards, he brought them out of Egypt from being slaves 430 years. Because they were slaves 430 years in the land of Egypt. And then when the Most High was gracious enough to bring us from out of that land of bondage, he made a covenant with us when we entered the land of Canaan. He made a covenant with us, the nation of Israel, when he brought us out of the land of Egypt. Now Deuteronomy 29:25 says they have forsaken the covenant of their fathers. Our fathers are Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We forsook the covenant. We didn't hold fast to the commandments when the Most High brought us out of the land of Egypt. So what did Israel go on to do? If Israel didn't command, if the nation of Israel, if they didn't stay within the commandments, what did they go on to do? Deuteronomy 29:26. Read.
Deuteronomy chapter 29 and verse 26.
Let's see what we did. Let's see what we did in terms of being cursed. Let's see.
For they went and served other gods.
You know what that means? Deuteronomy 29:26. They went and served other gods. That means that they opened themselves up to different religions. Because when you look at the Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans today, they are in various religions, serving other gods. Most blacks, most so-called blacks, so-called African Americans, so-called Negroes, are Christians. If not Christians, Muslims. Then you got the Hispanics that want to be Catholics. The so-called Hispanics, they are Catholics. Whether it's Christianity, Islam, or Catholicism, those are different religions that are classified as serving other gods in the scriptures. So Deuteronomy 29:26 says that the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, which are the modern day Israelites today, they went and served other gods, meaning that they opened themselves up to different religions. And that's why you got the two primary religions, Christianity and Islam, last but not least Catholicism, that have overtaken our people. That is what you call serving other gods. Deuteronomy 29:26. And they did what? They worshiped them. You devoted yourself wholeheartedly to these religions. You worshiped them, gods whom they knew not, because we didn't know anything about from the time we came out of Egypt. And when we entered the promised land, the land of Canaan, when we entered that land, we did not know anything about religion. We didn't know anything about denominations. We didn't know anything about that Christianity, Islam, Catholicism. We didn't know anything about religion, but we came to know that. And that's counted in Deuteronomy 29:26 as we going and serving other gods and worshiping these other gods who we do not and whom he had not given to them, because the Most High never gave us religion. Deuteronomy 29:27. Read out.
Deuteronomy chapter 29 and verse 27. And the anger of the Lord was kindled against this land.
The anger of the Lord was kindled against the Black, Hispanic, and Native American man from the time they became a Christian, from the time they became a Muslim, from the time they became a Catholic. The anger of the Lord was kindled against these people. So don't think that you subscribing to Christianity is a good thing in the eyes of the Lord, because actually, for you to be a Christian, it pisses the Lord off. For you to be a Muslim, or for you to be a Catholic, or for you to be subscribed to any other religion in the earth, that actually angers the Lord. And we know that a lot of blacks, Hispanics, Latinos, and Native Americans have subscribed themselves to various religions in the land. And you cannot talk about a religion without concluding a God that comes along with it. So you want to go off and be part of Christianity? A lot of so-called blacks, so-called African Americans, you want to denote yourselves as Christians? Guess what? Then with that same religion, Christianity comes along with God. And what is that God? Your white Jesus. Your blonde hair, blue-eyed, red-skinned white Jesus that the Bible don't speak of. You want to subscribe yourself to Islam? Guess what comes along with Islam? The prophet, the false prophet Muhammad. And the black Kaaba rock, which is another form of idol worship, because it's a black meteorite stone that don't have the capability to speak, to see, to hear. You want to subscribe to Catholicism? That goes right back to Christianity. Christianity is nothing but another form of Catholicism, because it came from the Roman Catholic Church. So the Most High never looked forward to us being subservient slaves to various religions that came along with false idols and gods. But when we did that, we killed the Lord. We angered the Lord. Deuteronomy 29:27, to bring upon all the curses that are written in this book. Last but not least, let's see that we remain in that land the land of Canaan, the promised land that the Most High promised to us, let's see that we remained in that land. Deuteronomy 29:29. Read.
Deuteronomy chapter 29 and verse 29.
Read 28.
Verse 28. And the Lord rooted them out of their land. The Lord
did what to the Israelites?
Rooted them out of their land.
The Lord took us out of the promised land that he gave to us. That's why to this very day, you have Israelis, or what they call Khazars, in our land. So when you think about Palestine, Israel today, who's occupying that land today? A bunch of converts. A bunch of imposters that's claiming to be the chosen people, but they are not. The Lord rooted us out of our land and set Gentiles in our land. Deuteronomy 29:28. Read up.
Deuteronomy chapter 29 and verse 28. And the Lord rooted them out of their land.
He rooted us out of our land. Captivity, slavery. This is how the Lord rooted us out of our land. By allowing us to go into exile under the hands as servants under the heathen nations. He rooted us out of our land. Read on.
In anger.
In anger. Go ahead.
And in wrath.
And in great wrath. Go ahead.
And in great indignation.
Great indignation is great anger. Great wrath. What provoked the Lord to anger? When we subscribe to various religions and we still doing this. Read on.
And cast them into another land.
What did the Heavenly Father do?
And cast them into another land.
What happened to the nation of Israel?
And cast them into another land.
He cast us into another land besides the promised land, besides the land of Canaan, as it is this day. Now you tell me, what is that land that he cast the nation of Israel in besides the land of Canaan? If he rooted you out the promised land and cast you into another land this day, where in the hell is that land? Because when it say he cast them out, that's a form of servitude and slavery. So it was somebody that confiscated us from that land to bring us into another land to this very day. Now, who are those people? The blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. How was you rooted out of your land? You was rooted out of your land by slavery, guys. Slavery. Captivity. This is how you was rooted out of your land. And not just the so-called black man, but the so-called Hispanic man, also the so-called Native American man. This is how you was rooted out of your land. And after you, guess what? So that means that you would no longer be called the Israelite from that point. Because when you went into slavery, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, hear me out. When you went into slavery, you did not retain your biblical national name. Hey, wait a minute. I need to go get the 12 tribe chart. So guys, hold on. Get the 12 tribe chart. Get not off the wall, but in the bag. Get the 12 tribe chart. Okay, guys. So we're going to check to see who has tuned in thus far. All right. We see Zaza Brooks. We see Nikki Johnson. We see Yawasop McDuffie and Aaron Walker. We appreciate you guys. All right. My son just went off to grab the 12 tribe poster concerning the 12 tribes of Israel. He's on his way back right now. Okay, so now, all right, the water up. All right, now look at this, guys. I can't detect if you fully see this, but these are the 12 tribes of Israel. These are the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, guys? So, these are the 12 tribes of Israel. Over here, Jay, point your finger right there. You see where Yeremia, my son, is pointing his finger? See, over here is the tribal names, the biblical tribal names. So, I guess my far right would be you guys far left. So, over here, where my index finger is pointing to, over here is the biblical tribal names that was given to the blacks, Hispanics, Latinos, and Native Americans. So over here is the biblical tribal names. So, and over here is the proverbs and bywords that was applied to us after we went into servitude, after we went into slavery. So guys, there's no such thing as an African American, because African American is a fairly new term. Actually, African American was applied to us by Jesse Jackson, like in the early 1980s. So in the early 1980s, the term African American comes from Jesse Jackson, because he was paid off by the so-called white man. He was paid off to apply the name African American to the tribe of Judah, which is over here. So actually, there's no such thing as an African American. There's no such thing as a nigger. There's no such thing as a black man or a black woman. There's no such thing as that. According to the Bible, your biblical tribal name is Judah. So you so-called Negroes, you so-called niggers, you so-called Afro-Americans, African Americans, your biblical tribal name is denoted as Judah in the Bible. So guess who you are? You are a Jew. The so-called Negroes, or who you love to call niggers, or African Americans, they are the true, authentic Jews of the Bible. That comes from out of the tribe of Judah, which is the fourth son of Jacob. So they are the Jews. What about the Benjamites over here? The Benjamites, which you love to call West Indians. There's no such thing as a West Indian. The word Indian comes from Indianos. The word Indian comes from the Latin Indianos, which means slave. There's no such thing as an Indian. There's no such thing as a West Indian, guys. The West Indians were known as the Benjamites in the Bible. So who are the West Indian Negroes today? The West Indian Negroes are what you call Jamaicans of Jamaica. The so-called Jamaicans over there in the Caribbean islands are known as the West Indian Negroes. Those so-called Jamaicans, their biblical tribal name in the Bible is Benjamin. What about the tribe of Levi? Because you have a book in the Bible, consistent in the Old Testament, you have a book in the Bible that is known as Leviticus. And Leviticus was written for the tribe of the book of Leviticus in the Bible was written for the tribe of Levi. Now, who are the biblical Levites of today? Your modern day Haitians. So there's no such thing actually as a Haitian, because the word Haiti goes back to the French word hell, because that's what the Frenchmen called those Levites after they was conquered. They called them dogs from hell. So basically, the word Haiti goes back to the French hell. There's no such thing as a Haitian. But we know that the Bible denotes that the true Haitians are the biblical Levites. When you go down right here to Simeon, I don't know if you guys can see it. Hold it up. Keep it right there. Keep it up right there. Hold it up. Okay, guys. I'm trying, because I don't know if you guys can fully see it. So what you call the Afro-Americans or African-Americans or niggers or black people, the Bible denotes them as the biblical Judites. We are the Jews. What you call the West Indian Negroes, what you call Jamaicans, the Bible denotes them as the tribe of Benjamin. What you call the Haitians down there in Haiti, Haiti is a French word that goes back to hell. The white people call these Levites the dogs from hell. There's no such thing as Haitian. The Bible denotes them as the tribe of Levi. There's no such thing as Dominicans down in the Dominican Republic. The so-called Dominicans down in the Dominican Republic are the Simeonites. What about Central America, from Guatemala to Panama, dealing with from Guatemala to the Panamanian Canal, dealing with Central America? These people are not denoted as Guatemalans and Panamanians. They are actually denoted in the Bible as the Zebulonites. What about the so-called Puerto Ricans? Puerto Rico comes from the Puerto Riches. The white man called that the Puerto Riches because of its crops, fruits, and vegetables, precious minerals, and things of that nature. They call it the Puerto Riches, which is Puerto Rico. But actually, the so-called Puerto Ricans are the Ephraimites. And what you call the Cubans, from down in the Caribbean, the Cubans are actually the Manasserites. What you call the Native Americans, like the Choctaws, Chickasaw, Cherokee, Blackfoot, Sioux. You see, what you call the Native American Indians, They are actually the Gadites. What you call the Seminole Indians. Now the Seminole Indians is down in the Florida Everglades, down in Florida. What you call the Seminole Indians are actually, the Bible denotes them as the Reubenites. What you call Argentina to Chile. Argentina to Chile is southern Brazil. Argentina to Chile is southern Brazil. And what you call them, the Bible denotes what you call Argentinians and Chileans, the Bible actually denotes them as the Asherites, the tribe of Asher. And then last but not least, what you call the Mexicanos, the so-called Hispanic people. They are not Hispanics because Hispanic comes from Hispaniola, which means the Spanish island. So they're not actually Hispanics, okay? And they're not actually Mexicans. But the Bible denotes them as their biblical tribal name as the Israelites. So guys, we got to deal with these names over here because there's no such thing as an African American. There's no such thing as a West Indian Negro or Haitian or a Dominican, a Panamanian, a Puerto Rican, a Cuban, a Mexican. There's no such thing as that. So as a collectively, as of a whole, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans makes up the 12 tribes of Israel that the Bible speaks about. So this whole entire time that you've been thinking that you're a nigger, a black person, an African American, this whole entire time that you've been thinking that you are a Mexican or a Cuban or a Puerto Rican or a Guatemalan or a Colombian, this whole entire time that you've been thinking that you're not that. You blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans are the descendants of Israel. You are the 12 tribes. You make up the chosen nation, the 12 tribes of Israel. So how in the hell did our oppressor separate us from our biblical tribal names? Because that's what happened. Blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans of today, you was cut off from your biblical tribal names to believe that you are this over here, to believe that you're a nigger, to believe that you're a Mexican, to believe that you're a Cuban, to believe that you're Argentinian, to believe that you're a Dominican. You was cut off from your biblical tribal names to believe the proverbs and these bywords. What is a proverb and a byword? What is exactly a proverb and a byword? We're going to get into that. So hold this up. Hold that up. So this is what happened to the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans. This is what happened to you. Slavery happened to you. Why did slavery happen to us as of a collective nation? Why did slavery happen to us? Because slavery is the effect for being disobedient. We was disobedient to the policies of the Heavenly Father. The Heavenly Father gave us laws, statutes, and the commandments to go by. And when we choose not to apply the statutes and the commandments to our lives, this is the result, slavery. So blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans have been subdued and have been slaves for the longest. So let me show you about the proverbs and bywords now, guys, okay? We see Aaron Walker, Joe McDuffie, Nikki Johnson, Zaza Brooks, and Wanda Smith. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. So now, today, you go up to a black man, you go up to a black woman, a so-called black man or so-called black woman. You ask them their nationality. They would not be able to tell you. Most of them would not. Why? Because they have grown to believe that they are actually black people. Now, black doesn't denote you as a nation. Even if you say that you are African American are two continents. That doesn't denote your nation. That doesn't describe you as a nation. So African and America are two continents. Last but not least, Africa goes back to a white man, because the real name of Africa is what you call the land of Ham, aka Kemet. So the real name of Africa is also known as Ham or ancient Kemet. But how did that land get the name Africa? Well, you have to study what they call the Second Punic Wars. When you study about the Second Punic Wars, you will come in terms of this guy by the name of Leo Scipios Africanus. He went down there in that land of Kemet, or the land of Ham, and he defeated General Hannibal. After Leo Scipios Africanus defeated the Carthaginians, that's what they called the Africans. They called them the Carthaginians. So after the Romans, Leo Scipios Africanus was a Roman general. He went down into the interiors of the land of Ham, before it was called Africa. He went down there into the interiors of the land of Ham, and he defeated General Hannibal. And then Leo Scipios Africanus, which was a Roman general, named that land Ham, or aka Kemet. He named that land Africanus. And to this day, that land is called Africa. So that land was named after a so-called white man. And I'm going to show you this. Give me Psalms. Give me Psalms. And give me Psalms chapter. This is the book of Psalms. This is in the Bible. Psalms 48 chapter 11. Read that. And look at the camera while you read it, man. Psalms 48 chapter 11. I'm going to show you that the so-called white man, every time he conquered a certain landmass, he named that land after his name. This is Psalms 48 verse 11. Read up.
Psalms chapter 48 and verse 11.
Come on.
Let Mount Zion rejoice.
Psalms 48 verse 11.
Psalms chapter 48 and verse
11. It's about 49 verse 11. Excuse me, guys. I'm sorry, I apologize. The wrong chapter. Psalms 49 verse 11.
Psalms chapter 49 and verse 11.
Uh-huh.
Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever.
Yeah, because the so-called white man think that his government is going to be everlasting, but it's coming to an end with thermonuclear destruction. Go ahead, read on.
In their dwelling places to all generations.
Go ahead.
They called their lands after their own name.
What did the Europeans do?
They called their lands after their own name.
What did the so-called white man do?
They called their lands after their own name.
Psalms 48 verse, Psalms 49. Psalms 49 verse 11 says they called their lands after their own names. So anytime a European Caucasian white guy would conquer a certain land, he would name it after his own name. And that's exactly what happened to the land of Ham, aka the land of Kemet. That's how the land of Ham, aka Kemet, became Africa. Because Africa comes from Africanus, which was a Roman general that named that land after his own name. And also, when you're dealing with America, the real name of America is Osiris. You got the Apocrypha? Give me 2nd Ezra chapter, in the Apocrypha. In the King James Apocrypha, 2nd Ezra 13. This is 2nd Ezra 13. In the King James Apocrypha. All right, 2nd Ezra 13. Wait a minute. 2nd Ezra 13. I want you to grab 2nd Ezra 13 and 2nd Ezra 13:45. Because 2nd Ezra 13, 2nd Ezra the 13th chapter talks about how the nine and a half tribes outside of the tribes outside of the Jews. 2nd Ezra the 13th chapter in the Apocrypha talks about how the 9.5 tribes migrated to this Western world after the Assyrian captivity. So this is 2nd Ezra chapter 13 verse 45. Read that out.
2nd Ezra chapter 13 and verse 45. For through that country there was a great way to go, mainly of a year and a half.
So it took what you call the Native American Indians, which are actually the northern kingdom of Israel. It took them a year and a half to migrate from Assyria over to America because they went through the Persian Gulf. So the 9.5 tribes from the northern kingdom of Israel, after the Assyrian captivity, they went through the Persian Gulf. And it took them 9.5 years to get to this Western world. But when they got here, it was not called America. Let's see what 2nd Ezra, the 13th chapter, verse 45, tells you the real name of this landmass. The real name of the United States. 2nd Ezra 13:45. Read out.
It says, for through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half. And the same religion is called...
No, it says 2nd Ezra 13:45. And the same region. 2nd Ezra 13:45. And the same region is called what? Osiris. So what is the real name for this continent? It's not the United States. It's not America. It's not USA. The real name for this landmass is Osiris, which means new land. But how in the hell did the real name of this landmass, which is Osiris, how did this land end up being called America? How did this land end up being called America? Because in Psalms 49:11, it says that they call the lands after their own names. So guess what? You have this Italian navigator. This Italian navigator goes by the name of Amerigo Vespucci. He was an Italian navigator, and last but not least, he was a map constructor. He used to make maps, along with Nicholas Copernicus. All right, guys? So, Nicholas Copernicus and Amerigo Vespucci, they were both map makers. Amerigo Vespucci settled here in the year of 1492. Christopher Columbus didn't never come here. That's a damn lie that you was taught in school. So Christopher Columbus never settled to America. Not North America. Probably Central and a little bit of South America and Caribbean islands, because he made four voyages. But they named this landmass, which was the name Osiris, they named it America because Amerigo Vespucci settled here and got the credit. So you have this Italian navigator, aka map maker, Amerigo Vespucci, settled here, and they named the land Osiris after Amerigo Vespucci. Amerigo, now the land is called America. So I'm just showing you how the Caucasian men, the European settlers, when they conquer lands, they name these lands after their own name. This is what Psalms 49:11 says. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all their generations. They call their lands after their own names. That's what the white man does when he conquers a land. He named it after his own name. Just like Asia, over there in Asia, East Asia. Asia was named after a European Asiaticus. You see? So guys, we're giving you the over-entering understanding. But let's get back on point dealing with the proverbs and the byword. Why is blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, why are you called niggers? Why is the Hispanics called wetbacks? Why is the Native Americans called tomahawks? Why is the so-called black people called niggers and African Americans? Why is the so-called Mexicans and Hispanics called wetbacks? Why is the so-called Native Americans called tomahawks? Why do they call us these names? These horrendous names. Why do they call us these foul names? Because the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, they should be calling you the Israelites. But why they're not doing it? We about to go into further indication to show you in the scriptures. All right? Okay, guys. Now, I'm about to break down why do they call the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, why do they call you niggers and and wetbacks and tomahawks? And why do they not call you the biblical name Israel? All right. We're going into this book right here. This book is known as The Valley of the Dry Bones by Rudolph R. Winsler. See that, guys? So now we're going into page... We're going into page, let's see. Page 76. So we are going into page 76 in the Valley of the Dry Bones by Rudolph Winston. So hold page 76. And before we go into page 76, I'm coming from the Bible. So before we go into page 76, dealing with the Valley of the Dry Bones, written by Rudolph Winston, let me give you a book, chapter, and verse in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse... Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse, let's see, 37. So Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 37. And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb and a byword among all nations, whether the Lord shall lead thee. So this is Deuteronomy 28, verse 37. It tells the Israelites that if they didn't keep the commandments and obey the voice of the Lord, that they will become proverbs and bywords among all these heathens, among all these nations in our captivity. So if you didn't keep the commandments as an Israelite, blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, you are the Israelites, you didn't keep the commandments. So guess what? This is exactly why you're not known as the Israelites today. The reason why they don't call blacks, Hispanics, and Native American people Israelites today, because you didn't keep the commandments. So guess what you have been called today? You have been denoted as a proverb and a byword. Now, what exactly is a proverb and a byword that Deuteronomy 28, verse 37 talks about? This is what's going to give us the over-entering understanding of that. The Valley of the Dry Bones, Rudolph Winston, page 37. Begin with the second paragraph. Begin right here, Rudolph Winston, the Valley of the Dry Bones, page 76. Page 76. Read right there. Read up loud.
The words proverb and byword.
The words proverbs and bywords, go ahead,
actually have the same meaning here in the 37th verse.
Because in Deuteronomy 28:37, it tells us that the Israelites will become proverbs and bywords. Go ahead.
The Webster's New Collegiate.
The Webster's New Dictionary, go ahead,
says that a proverb is a name, person, or thing that has become a byword.
So a proverb is a name, person, or thing that becomes a byword. Let us take careful notes on how this same dictionary defines the word byword. Now, the word byword, a byword is actually a nickname, but it's in a bad sense. So when Deuteronomy 28:37 tells the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, when it tells the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans that they shall become a proverb, that is a nickname that's in a bad sense. I'm going to give you a perfect example of a byword. A byword is, say for instance, there's this fat woman over here. Or what I say, obese. She's very obese. So you have this very obese woman. And you start calling this woman, everybody starts calling this woman a big jelly bean. So this big obese woman, this big fat woman, everyone in her community starts applying to her as a big jelly bean. That's a proverb. That's a byword. That's what it means. That's a byword. A byword is a nickname that's given to a person, usually in a bad sense. So we're not no longer calling her fat. We're not no longer going to call her obese. We're going to call her a fat jelly bean. So now she's being called a nickname that's usually in a bad sense. Like for a very skinny person. Like I'm very slim and I'm very skinny. So someone may come and call me a toothpick. They'll say, you ain't nothing but a toothpick. Or you ain't nothing but a straw. Or you ain't nothing but something relating to skinny, but in a bad sense. If someone has a big head and you start calling them football head, that is what you call a byword, because a byword is a nickname that's usually in a bad sense. You see, this is exactly what happened to the nation of Israel. We would no longer be called these tribal names anymore. We would no longer be called Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, Simeon, Zebulun, Ephraim, Manasseh, Gad, Reuben, Naphtali, Issachar, and Asher. We would no longer be called on the left-hand side. We would no longer be called these biblical tribal names. We would leave these biblical tribal names for proverbs and bywords, which are slave names on the right-hand side. That's what happened to the blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans for breaking the Most High's commandments. So when we broke the Most High's commandments, the Most High took us out of our biblical tribal names. When we became slaves, the Most High took us out of our biblical tribal names and we became proverbs and bywords. Thus said the Lord in Deuteronomy 28:37. We became a proverb and a byword among all these nations. So you would no longer be called Judah no more. You so-called Negroes in the Western Hemisphere, you would not be on the left-hand side. You would not be called Judah anymore. You would be called a nigger. You would be called an African American. You Benjamites of the Bible. You would no longer be called a tribe of Benjamin. You will be called a Jamaican now. You would no longer be called the Levites of the Bible. You would be called Haitians. You would no longer be called the Simeonites of the Bible. You would be called Dominicans. You would no longer be called the Zebulunites. You would be called Guatemalans and Panamanians. You would no longer be called the Ephraimites. You would be called Puerto Ricans. You would no longer be called the Manasserites. You would be called Cubans. You would no longer be called the Gadites. You would be called Native Americans. You would not be called the Reubenites. You would be called Seminole Indians. And they even got a football team down there in Florida, known as Florida Seminoles. I believe, or a baseball team, one of them. I'm not good with sports. Naphtali. You would no longer be called Naphtali. You will be called Argentinians and Chileans. You will no longer be called the Asherites. You will be called Argentinians and Chileans. You will no longer be called Asher. You will no longer be called the Colombians. You will no longer be called the Asherites. You will be called Colombians to Uruguayans. And you will no longer be called the Issacharites. You're going to be called a damn Hispanic or Mexican. So you left your biblical tribal names for a name, a proverb, and a byword. That's Deuteronomy 28:37. Now let me show you something, guys. This is why we got to get the over, inner, and understanding of things. So now, when you go up to a black man, you go up to a Hispanic man, a Native American man, woman, a child, you go up to them today and try to explain that they are the Israelites, they're not going to believe you. You know why? Because they have assimilated to these proverbs and bywords. They've been so used to adapting these proverbs and bywords. When you try to tell blacks, Hispanics, and Native American people that they are the people of the Bible, they don't want to believe you. But that's okay. This is only for the believers. This is only for the ones, who are sincere and learning the truth. We can't help you others if you're not sincere and learning the truth. Now watch this, guys. Give me, I want to pick a good one. Give me Isaiah 65:15. Watch this in the Bible. Now we're going into Isaiah chapter 65, verse 15. We got Corey Hutto tuned in, Timothy Sane, Wanda Smith, Zaza Brooks, Nikki Johnson, Yawasop McDuffie, Adam Walker. Thank you guys for your time that you sacrificed. So now, this is the book of Isaiah, which is Yeshaya in Hebrew. The book of Isaiah 65, verse 15. Read that. Read. Face the camera while you read. Isaiah 65:15. Read that out loud.
Isaiah chapter 65 and verse 15. And you shall leave your name for a curse unto my chosen.
What did the Most High tell the nation of Israel?
And you shall leave your name for a curse unto my chosen.
Isaiah 65:15 says that the nation of Israel, the 12 tribes, the nation of Israel, they will leave their biblical tribal names for a curse. Meaning that they will leave their biblical tribal names on the left-hand side. They will leave their biblical tribal names for a curse, for a proverb and a byword. A proverb and a byword is a slave name. So the true, authentic Israelites, You will leave your biblical tribal names on the left-hand side for a proverb and a byword, for a curse, for a slave master name. So you'll end up being Jews. No, in the beginning you was Jew. In the beginning you was Jews. In the beginning you was Jews, but now you call niggers and African Americans and black people. In the beginning you was the tribe of Benjamin, but now you known as West Indian niggers, Jamaican niggers. In the beginning you was the Levites, now you known as Haitian niggers, and so forth. In the beginning you was Issachar, now you known as Hispanics, wetbacks, and Mexicans. In the beginning you was the Gadites, now you known as Native Americans. Read it again, Isaiah 65:15.
Isaiah chapter 65 and verse 15. And ye shall leave your name.
Meaning that you're gonna leave your biblical tribal name. You shall leave your name. Go ahead.
For a curse unto my chosen.
For a curse. That's a slave name. So that's why when you look around, we've been so used to being called black people, Hispanic people, and Native American people, because you left your biblical tribal name for a curse. And that curse is nothing but a proverb and a byword. Nothing but a slave name. This is why your last name to this very day. Do you not know this? Especially the blacks, especially black men, especially black women, especially the black children, especially the Hispanic man, and the Native American man, woman, and children. Do you not know your last name? It's not your biblical tribal last name. Your last name goes back to a slave master. So whatever your last name is, the slave master gave you his last name to denote you as his slave. So let's just say it's this so-called black man. Let's say his name is Terry Williams. Well, Williams goes back to the name of a slave master because the slave master applied his name to Terry to denote his property. So this is what Malcolm X was trying to tell y'all. This is why his name was the great iconic Malcolm X. His name was Malcolm X because he X'd out his last name because he knew that his last name went back to a former slave master. He didn't want to be reminded of slavery and servitude. So he X'd out his last name and took upon the name Malcolm X. So if you got a last name, that's not your biblical tribal last name. That last name goes back to a slave master because the slave master applied his name to the slave master gave a slave his name to denote his property after that slave was sold on auction blocks. So Isaiah 65:15, read it again. And this is in the Holy Bible. This is in the Bible. Isaiah 65:15, read out.
Isaiah chapter 65 and verse 15.
Come on.
And ye shall leave your name for a curse unto my chosen.
So the children of Israel left their name for a curse. You goddamn right that happened to us, man. The blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, they left their name. They left their biblical tribal name for a goddamn slave name. For a name that don't have nothing to do with you as a nation. So this is why you call niggers. This is why you call blacks. This is why you call African Americans. This is why you call Hispanics. This is why you call Mexicans. This is why you call wetbacks. This is why you call Native Americans. This is why you call tomahawks. Because you left your biblical tribal name for a curse. That's Isaiah 65:15. Read it for yourself in the Bible. Read it for yourself, man. Watch this. We're going to show you a perfect example. Now, give me Daniel chapter 1, man. Go to the book of Daniel in the Bible. Go to the book of, because this happened to Daniel, man. Go to the book of chapter. Now in the Bible, we're going to the book of Daniel. Begin with chapter 1. Begin with chapter 1, and we'll get over it in an understanding on Daniel's. In the Old Testament, the book of Daniel. Wait a minute, we're going to show you what happened to the Hebrew Israelites. This is what happened to them, man. Daniel chapter 1. Read Daniel chapter 1 and 1. Read down to verse 6.
Daniel chapter 1 and verse 1.
Uh-huh.
In the third year of the reign of Jehoiakim.
So in the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. So this is Daniel chapter 1. Remember now, this is the book of Daniel in the Holy Bible. This is Daniel chapter 1, verse 1. It says, in the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, came Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, into Jerusalem, and besieged it. Daniel chapter 1, verse 2. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand, with the part of the vessels of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasure house of his God. So we can see right there, it talks about the history of Daniel. And it talks about how the Babylonians subdued the Israelites in slavery. King Nebuchadnezzar was the king of Babylon at that time, and he seized Jerusalem. Basically, he took Jerusalem in captivity. Right? Jerusalem is the Israelites. Jerusalem is the Israelites, which are you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans today. So guess what? We as the Israelites, we got besieged by the Babylonians under the orders of King Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel 1 verse 3. And the king spake into S.F.I.A, the master of his eunuchs, that he should bring certain of the children of Israel, and of the king's seed, and of the princes. Now watch this. Now watch what happened after the children of Israel became slaves to the Babylonians. Read Daniel chapter 1 verse 6. Watch this.
Daniel chapter 1 and verse 6.
Uh-huh.
Now among these were of the children of Judah.
The children of Judah, the Jews. So these was black men. The children of Judah, these are so-called black men. Daniel 1 and 6. Now among these were the children of Judah. Go ahead. Daniel 1. Go ahead. Hananiah 2. Go ahead. Mishael 3. Go ahead.
And
Azariah 4. So we can see that Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah, they was Jews that was captives under the Babylonians. Who are the Babylonians? The Babylonians are the modern day Ethiopians, the ancient Cushites. That's who the Babylonians are. And we was taken over by the Babylonians. So you got Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah in Daniel 1 and 6 that was taken as slaves by the Babylonians. What happened to them? Daniel chapter 1 verse 7. Read up.
Unto whom the prince of the eunuchs gave names.
So the prince of these Babylonian eunuchs gave Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, Azariah a new name in their captivity. Read on.
For he gave unto Daniel the name of Belshazzar.
See, so Daniel's name changed. Daniel left his biblical tribal name. After Daniel, a Hebrew Israelite from the tribe of Judah, after Daniel was subdued, after Daniel was brought into slavery of the Babylonians, after the Babylonian Empire enslaved Daniel, Daniel's name wasn't Daniel no more. Daniel's name changed to Belshazzar. This is Daniel chapter 1 verse 7. What happened to Hananiah? Did Hananiah's name stay the same under Babylonian captivity? Read on.
To Hananiah of Shadrach.
So Hananiah's name changed to Shadrach. Did Mishael's name stay the same under the Babylonian captivity? Read on.
And to Mishael of Meshach.
So they changed Mishael's name to Meshach. Go ahead. And did Azariah's name stay the same under the Babylonian captivity? Go ahead.
And to Azariah of Abednego.
See? And to Azariah's name changed to Abednego. So you had Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, names that was changed. Daniel's name was changed to Belshazzar. Hananiah was changed to Shadrach. Mishael was changed to Meshach. And Azariah's name was changed to Abednego. So anytime a Hebrew Israelite, man, woman, or child, went into captivity under the hands of another nation, they left their biblical tribal names for a curse. We showed you that in Isaiah 65 verse 15. We showed you that it said that you shall leave your name for a curse. So in Daniel chapter 1, this is why you got Belshazzar, Hananiah, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. That's not their real names. Those are slave names that the Babylonians gave Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. You see that, guys? So anytime a Hebrew Israelite was taken into the hands of another nation, their names changed. That's why you're not being called the Jews today. Because your name changed to nigger. Your name's changed to black man, black woman, African American man, African American woman. That's why you Israelites are not being called the true name. Because your name changed to Hispanic and Mexican and wetback and so forth. That's why you Benjamites are not being called that name today, because your name changed to West Indian nigger or Jamaican. That's why you Levites are not being called your true name, because your name changed to Haitian. You Native Americans, you're not being called the Gadites of the Bible, because your name changed to a damn Native American, a tomahawk. This is truly what a proverb and a byword is, man. Give me Esther 2:7. Give me Esther 2:7 in the Bible. The book of Esther chapter 2, verse 7 in the Old Testament.
Esther chapter 2 and verse 7.
Uh-huh.
And he brought up Hadassah.
Wait a minute. He brought up Hadassah, right? Go ahead.
That is Esther.
Wait a minute. Read Esther in the Old Testament chapter 2, verse 7. Read that again, huh?
Esther chapter 2 and verse 7.
Uh-huh.
And he brought up Hadassah.
Uh-huh.
That is Esther.
So why did Esther name change to Hadassah? Esther was a Hebrew Israelite woman, and she was a black woman. Why did Esther name change to Hadassah? Why? Why did Esther name change to Hadassah, guys? Because of captivity under the hands of another nation. That's why Esther's name was known as Hadassah. Read it from the top again. Book, chapter, and verse.
Esther chapter 2 and verse 7.
Uh-huh.
And he brought up Hadassah. That is Esther.
Uh-huh.
His uncle's daughter.
See that? This is what I'm trying to tell you. Because the Israelites, dealing with the book of Esther, the Israelites went into the Persian Mede captivity. The Medo-Persian Empire. The Israelites were slaves under the Persians in the book of Esther. So this is why you have in Esther 2 and 7, it says he brought up Hadassah, that is Esther, his uncle's daughter, for she had neither father nor mother, because her father and mother was killed. And the maid was fair and beautiful, and whom Mordecai, when her father and mother was dead, took for his own daughter, because they got killed. Esther's mother and father got killed in a war. Most likely the Persian Mede killed her father and mother. So this is what I'm trying to tell you guys. Esther, man, was a Hebrew Israelite woman, guys. She was a so-called Negro woman, because she was from the tribe of Judah. And here go Esther in the book of Esther 2, in Esther chapter 2 verse 7, says that Esther's name was changed to Hadassah, because that's what happened when the Israelites went under slavery, man. Whenever the Israelites was found in the hands of another nation, their name changed. I don't have to keep going on and on about this, guys. Give me 2 Maccabees chapter 6, verse 6 in the Apocrypha. And this is the last book, chapter, and verse.
Second Maccabees chapter.
I want to say this is the last book, chapter, and verse, because I might get one more. 2 Maccabees, show them the book. We'll read it from the King James Apocrypha. The Catholic Church took these books out of your Bible in the 1800s. The Catholic Church removed these books from the Bible in the 1800s. These are known as the Apocryphal books. They was in the King James 1611. So read 2 Maccabees chapter 6, beginning with verse 6.
2 Maccabees chapter 6 and verse 6.
And we talking about Maccabees. So we talking about when the Grecian Empire subdued the nation of Israel and took the Israelites into slavery. So you had the Greeks, you had the Grecian Empire that was ruling over the Hebrew Israelite Jews as slaves during the time of the Maccabees. This is 2 Maccabees chapter 6 verse 6. Read that and stop on verse 9. Go ahead.
Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts or to profess himself to be at all to be a Jew.
Or profess at all to be a Jew. So this is 2 Maccabees, guys, chapter 6, verse 6. It says, neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days. The Greeks made sure that the Hebrew Israelite Jews, you so-called Negroes today, the Greeks made sure that you didn't subscribe to your holy days, man. This is 2 Maccabees 6 verse 6. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts. You couldn't keep your holy days under the hands of the Greeks. You couldn't keep the Sabbaths under the hands of the Greeks. You couldn't keep the Passover, the Feast of Tabernacles. You couldn't keep the Day of Pentecost and so forth, the Feast of Dedication, the Memorial Blowing Trumpets, the Feast of Unleavened Bread. And any other holy days you couldn't keep when you was a slave under the Greeks. Last but not least, you couldn't keep the Sabbath days when you was a slave under the Grecian Empire. This is 2 Maccabees 6 and 6. Neither was it lawful for a man, that's a Hebrew Israelite man or woman, to keep the Sabbath days or ancient feasts or profess himself at all to be known as a Jew. When the Greeks took the nation of Israel over, you could not even profess to be called a Jew or you was getting put to death. So you had a lot of Hebrew Israelites that was from the tribe of Judah started calling themselves Grecians. And those are the same Greeks in the New Testament that Paul instructed and he taught. So this is how the Hebrew Israelites, which were Jews, this is how these Jews end up calling themselves Grecians. Because they couldn't profess to be called a Jew under the hands of the Grecian Empire. They couldn't take pride in their nationality as an Israelite. They had to be fed. They had to profess themselves to be Grecian. Just like a lot of you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans today. You profess yourself to be American. But you're not American. You are a Hebrew Israelite going back to these prophecies. 2 Maccabees chapter 6 verse 7. And in that day of the king's birth, every month there was brought by bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices. When the feast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews was compelled to go in and possess to Bacchus carrying ivy. So the Greeks made the Jews eat abominable foods. 2 Maccabees chapter 6 verse 8. Moreover, there went out a decree to the neighbor cities of the heathen by suggestion of Ptolemy. Ptolemy, a so-called white man, a Greek that took over Egypt, Ptolemy against the Jews, that they should observe the same fashions and be partakers of their sacrifices. So Ptolemy against the Jews, he said that the Jews should observe the same fashions of these heathens. And they got a lot of you Hebrew Israelites observing the same fashions of the customs of America, man. Give me 2 Maccabees chapter 6 verse 9. Read that.
2 Maccabees chapter 6 and verse 9. And whoso would not conform themselves to the manners of the Gentiles,
whosoever would not conform themselves to the orders of the Greeks, go ahead,
should be put to death.
What they do to the Israelite that did not subscribe to the customs of the Greeks,
they should be put to death.
What they do to the Hebrew Israelite man, woman, and child, what did they do to the modern day black, Hispanic, and Native American that did not subscribe to the customs of the Greeks?
They should be put to death.
That's 2 Maccabees chapter 6 verse 9. Anybody that was a Hebrew Israelite, if you did not adopt to the customs of the Greeks, you were put to death. So this is how you simulate it into this Europeanized civilization. This is how you assimilated into it. This is why you call yourself, I'm an American. I'm an American citizen. I'm a U.S. citizen. This is why you call yourself that. Because you left your biblical tribal name for a curse, man. It's many more I can show you. Like Joseph's name was changed. Give me last book, chapter and verse, guys. I promise you. And then I'm out of your way. Genesis 41:45. Give me that out. Because Joseph left his name. Genesis 41:45.
Genesis chapter 41 and verse 45.
Genesis chapter 41, verse 45. Listen up, guys. Come on.
And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath-Paneah.
Zaphnath-Paneah. I believe, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. This is Genesis. The book of Genesis 41. Verse 45 tells you that Joseph, which was a Hebrew Israelite, Joseph's name was changed to Zaphnath-Paneah, and he gave him to wife Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, the priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. So when Joseph entered that land, Egypt, because Joseph was sold as a slave by his own brothers to the hands of the Egyptians. Joseph ends up winning favor with Pharaoh because he interpreted certain dreams, and he made Joseph the governor of Egypt. He made Joseph second in command. He made Joseph the governor of Egypt. Joseph was a Hebrew Israelite. Did Joseph keep his biblical national name in that land of Egypt, which is Northeast Africa? Did he keep his biblical national name? No, he did not keep his biblical national name. Joseph's name changed from Zaphnath-Paneah. This is why you blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans today do not have your tribal biblical name, because you've been slaves. You've been slaves under the hands of these heathens. You've been a slave to the white man. You've been a slave to the Cushites, which are the Ethiopians. You've been a slave to the Chinese. You've been a slave to the Japanese. You've been a slave to the Arabs. You've been a slave to the Assyrians. You've been a slave to the Syrians. You've been a slave to the Greeks. You've been a slave to the Romans. Now you're a slave to the revived Roman Empire. Israel have always been slaves in the Bible because they have not subscribed to the law, statutes, and the commandments of God. If you don't obey God's commandments, you're bound to be a slave, and you're bound to leave your biblical tribal name for a curse, a proverb, and a byword. So guys, I hope you enter and understand why we call niggas today, why we call black people today, why we call African American today, why we call Mexicans today, why we call Hispanics, why we call Latinos, why we call wetbacks, why we call Native Americans, why we call tomahawks. I hope you fully understand why the hell we call that. We call every other thing but the children of Israel. We are called every other damn name on the face of this globe. On the face of the earth, we are called every other name but besides the 12 tribes. And that's because a result of disobedience. We disobeyed the Father, and we left our biblical tribal names for this damn curse, these proverbs and bywords. So if they don't call you a Jew from the tribe of Judah, and they call you a nigger, and they call you an African American or a black, or they call you a coon, stepping fidget, chicken George, a porch monkey, a jigaboo, all those are proverbs and bywords that these people called us. Nigger woman, bitches, sluts, hoes, tramps, thoughts. All these are proverbs and bywords, and you settle for that shit. Listen to me. Stop letting these other nations call you bitches, hoes, sluts, tramps, thoughts. You so-called Negro woman, you are the true Jews. You are the daughters of Zion. You so-called Hispanic woman, you so-called Native American woman, you are the daughters of Zion, the Hebrew Israelite woman of the Bible, the chosen woman that the Bible speaks of. And you men, you blacks, you so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native American man, don't settle for being a thug, a dope dealer. I'm your nigga, this my nigga. This my dog. No, you black, Hispanic, and Native American man, this earth. So I hope you enter over and understand the true meaning of proverbs and bywords. This was a very wonderful lesson on today. All right. We say Shema Yasha'Allah Yahweh Allah Hayana wa Yahweh Akkad. Shema Yasha'Allah Yahweh Allah Hayana wa Yahweh Akkad. Shema Yasha'Allah Yahweh Allah Hayana wa Yahweh Akkad. That means, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. And last but not least, we say Kwam Yasha'Allah. Black, Hispanic, and Native American man, woman, and child, rise up, step up to the calling, accept this truth. Don't be ignorant-minded. Do your research. Precept upon precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little. Seek, truly seek for yourself to discover the truth. And when you seek, you shall no longer want. All right? So, we out, guys. Yerima Yabbar Israel and Shabar Judah Israel on behalf of Solid Foundation, Israelite Academy. Double honors to the elders, salutations to the brothers, and last but not least, all praises and glorification and due honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushua. Peace.